Hello again. All right, so I have looked at the other things that are streaming. By the way, hello, welcome to the Daily Greens. If you're not subscribed yet, please do so. We like to put out content like government streams of hearings and some press releases and things that some other people tend to look over. So if you want some stuff like that, if you're an independent journalist or alternative media type and you want some good resources, then go ahead and subscribe, and you can check out our website, thedailygreens.org, for more. But anyway, so I checked out the things that are streaming right now from the government, and as far as I can tell, there are two different things. There is a business oversight committee hearing, which is already streaming on YouTube, and then there is another one which is a debate regarding two different House resolutions, which I can't find streaming on YouTube, so that is the one that I'm going to be streaming. So let me show you how you can find this for yourself so that you can find good information on this too. Alright, so if you go to live.house.gov, I gotta get over to my browser. Okay, if you go to live.house.gov, it'll look like this, more or less. My screen is kind of cropped, but you can see it has the different House resolutions and things that they're talking about. It tells you what the most recent action was. Now, if you click on the link to where you would think the information on it should be, it says page not found. But if you, on the bottom of this tab here, when you type in live.house.gov, you will see a bar on the bottom, a dark blue bar that says watch, floor, text, schedule, legislative actions. So if you click on schedules, you will see this, more or less, again, because the screen is cropped. But it says the different information and legislation that is being used for that whole week. And if you scroll down, you will see that it says HR 5377, and I guess 772 and 773 are regarding HR 5377. So if you want to get the information on that and what they are talking about regarding that, there is a link that says PDF right next to where it has the HRES 5377. And if you click on that link, hold on a second. Am I on the right? No, I'm not even on the right browser window, you guys. I am sorry. Okay, this is, or was it the right one? Oh no, it was. It was. I need another cup of coffee. I brewed another cup, well, another pot. A pot of coffee is a cup for me. And it's calling my name in there. So this is apparently a bill to amend the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 to modify the limitation on deduction of state and local taxes and for other purposes. So there's that information if you want some more specifics about what they are going to be talking about, but I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the live view so that we can see what's going on. And this actually is not live. I'm just going to go ahead and play it. Oh, it is a bit behind now, isn't it? It's hard to keep up with this stuff, guys. This is real life. This is how you know this is real. Alright, so let's go ahead and just play this.
It's just so irresponsible and so divisive in our nation. We talk about this bill, about restoring tax fairness. That's exactly what it is, tax fairness. It's not fair.
He was ranting about his state being called out or whatever.
That pick up the garbage and plow the roads and protect our people and educate our children are being forced to have to worry about more money being used to subsidize the rest of the country. It's not fair that this has been in place since 1913, and they want to try and change this covenant that has existed since the beginning of the federal tax code. They want to change it at this time. It's completely unfair. Let me point out with one last point that 100% of this bill is paid for by the highest earners in the United States of America. 100% is paid for by the highest earners. If my colleagues are concerned about the wealthy not getting too much, then have them increase the progressive tax even higher, if that's what they really mean. I yield back.
Gentleman from New York yields back. Gentleman from California reserves. Gentleman from Oklahoma is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield myself such time as I may consume. Look, nobody admires my friend from New York more than I do. We've worked on a number of issues, but let's be real. You know, you're going to make the rich, I guess, in every state pay for the rich in your own state. That's just the fact. Most of the benefit of this thing, 56% of the benefits goes to the top 1% of income earners. That's the fact. You know, 80% of it go to the top 5%. 94% go to people, households that make over $200,000 a year. Those are just the numbers. Now, some of this is used for worthy causes. I would agree with that. But a permanent tax increase for a temporary tax cut, frankly, just doesn't make a lot of sense. And that's what we're dealing with here. So I would also suggest that my friends remember that the tax cut that they revile so much doubled the personal exemption for most people. So that more than offset for most people the SALT tax reduction that was reduced. And it's not eliminated. It's still there. $10,000 a year is a pretty good deduction to be able to take. If you make that much income that you can take a deduction that large, then you're probably doing pretty well. So again, I don't have any problem with people defending the interests of their states. That's a perfectly appropriate thing to do. I don't have any problem with people wanting to use money for good purposes. Perfectly appropriate thing to do. But let's be real about who's getting the benefit of this tax package. And it's very high income people. And for that, I'm going to oppose it. With that, Mr. Speaker, I'll reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman from Oklahoma, Mr. Cole reserves. Gentlewoman from California, Ms. Torres, is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I'm going to yield one additional minute to the gentleman from New York, Mr. Swazi.
Gentleman from New York is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I won't take a full minute. I just want to first start by saying how much I respect and admire Mr. Cole, and I have worked closely with him on many issues. I just want to make one point, though. So many of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle have been boasting about the fact that people are leaving states like mine to move to their states. And that's what one of the effects of this tax bill has been, by eliminating the state and local tax cap. And what happens? What happens when people leave my state and move to the Southwest or the Southeast? They leave behind lower and middle income tax people to pick up the bill. They are trying to boast about the fact that our states, which are mature industrial states that have old roads and old bridges and old sewers and old schools and old hospitals, when we get money from the federal government, we've got to fix up those legacy issues. We've got to deal with pockets of poverty because we've been around for a longer time. They're states which are growing. When they get money from us, that we are subsidizing the rest of the country. When they get money from the federal government, what are they using it for? New sewers and new roads and new bridges and new hospitals and new schools. And they're growing and they're bringing in new sales tax and new property taxes. And they're trying to take credit for it when really it's because of the progressive income tax and the money that has come from our states that has helped their states to succeed. It is hypocrisy to suggest that our states are somehow irresponsible. It's hypocrisy to suggest that they're concerned about the wealthiest
Gentleman's time
Americans.
has expired.
I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Gentlewoman from California reserves. Gentleman from Oklahoma is recognized.
I just advise my friend I'm prepared to close whenever she is, but in the interim I'll reserve if she has more speakers.
I am prepared to close also.
Okay, with that, Mr. Speaker, I yield
Gentleman's
myself the
recognized.
balance of my time and I'll move on to close. Mr. Speaker, in closing, I oppose both the rule and the underlying measure, H.R. 5377. It's a deeply misguided and partisan tax bill that sets up a temporary tax break for a privileged few and seeks to trade it for a permanent tax hike for the entire country. The bill temporarily removes the cap on state and local tax deduction, a benefit that will primarily go to wealthy taxpayers living in expensive homes in a few key states and localities. But to pay for this temporary boondoggle, the majority is adding a permanent hike at the top marginal tax rate. The benefits will go only to a few key privileged areas, but the costs are spread across the entire country. It makes very little sense to me to trade a temporary tax break for a permanent tax increase. And it makes even less sense to ask the entire country to pay for it in perpetuity for a short-term tax break for a few areas with high state and local taxes. Now, my friends have talked about the relative tax burden and who gives what and what state gives what. I mean, as a former member of the Budget Committee, those numbers are, by the way, usually based on the discretionary portion of the budget. The reality is, I hate to say this because we have a big problem in front of us that I don't think either party has confronted very well, certainly not mine, but I don't think my friends have either, and I don't think this administration has, and I don't think the last one. Every state in America is a debtor state if you start adding in Medicare, Medicaid, those type of non-discretionary expenditures. And so we have a big problem. And it's really related to an aging population more than it is anything else. But the idea that some states, are so-called donor states, I got to tell you, nobody's a donor state in America. We're running nearly $1 trillion deficit. That deficit comes almost primarily because we've simply not readjusted Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security to pay for the benefits that are being drawn out. I hope someday we'll work on that. I actually have a bipartisan bill. I used to carry it with Mr. Delaney, very good friend, presidential candidate from my good friends on the other side, that would go back and set up what we did in 1983 when Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill worked together. We had a Social Security Commission. We actually increased the revenue going into Social Security. I think that would have to be one of the long-term fixes, not simply cuts and reductions and reforms. But that's a debate for another day. In closing, Mr. Speaker, American taxpayers, in my view, deserve better than what's in front of us here today. Rather than making the tax code more regressive and more complicated, which this bill would do, we should further reform and simplify the tax code to make it easier for all taxpayers to understand. We should be making American businesses more competitive, and we should be taking steps that American workers can keep more of their hard-earned income, something I know we all want to do. In closing, again, just remember this. 56% of the benefits of this bill go to the top 1% of income earners. The top 5% get 80%. The bottom 80% in terms of income get 4%. That should explain it all. It's why we should reject this bill. So, Mr. Speaker, I urge my colleagues to vote no on the previous question, no on the rule, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman from Oklahoma, Mr. Cole, yields back the balance of his time. Gentlewoman from California, Ms. Torres, is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I want to start by clarifying a misconception that all of these taxes are forced upon taxpayers. This last election cycle, local voters voted for to tax themselves to pay for affordable housing for our growing homeless population, to pay for improved roads, to pay for better water quality. So they should not be punished for filling the gap where the federal government has failed to do so. This bill is paid for by raising taxes for households making over $400,000 back to the levels before Republicans passed their tax scam bill. California pays $13 billion more in federal taxes than it received from the federal government, according to a 2016 IRS report. Tennessee is the third most dependent state on federal resources. So to argue here that we should punish the people for wanting to help provide for your constituents because you failed to do that is outrageous. Oklahoma received $7.5 billion in federal funding in 2016. This bill is not about subsidizing those who already have too much. This bill is about stopping the double taxation on the same dollar. Mr. Speaker, we are here to try to give the middle-class families a break and undo the damage caused by the Republican tax scam. And as we look forward to the new year, I want to take a minute to reflect on the work Democrats in Congress have done during the 116th Congress. Whereas the Republican tax law provided 7 drug companies $34 billion in tax cuts In 1 year alone, last week, Democrats passed H.R. 3 to help seniors and American families afford their prescription drugs. Whereas last January, the president caused the longest government shutdown in history by pushing to irresponsibly use taxpayer dollars for an unnecessary border wall. Democrats have fought for comprehensive funding bills that invest in our infrastructure, healthcare, national security, and to increase the federal minimum wage. Whereas the Republican tax scam led to America's 400 wealthiest people paying a much lower tax rate than the working class, Democrats are here today because we believe in the middle class. Repealing the cap on the state and local tax deductions will benefit taxpayers across our nation. I have heard my colleagues claim that this bill is for the wealthy. Mr. Speaker, do my colleagues remember voting on the largest tax giveaway to the rich and corporations in American history? Obviously, they don't. But I am here to remind them that the biggest beneficiaries of the tax law that they passed were billionaires. The Joint Committee on Taxation estimated that wealthy taxpayers making $1 million or higher received a tax cut of $37 billion in 2019. Mr. Speaker, while the Republican tax scam was a bill for the mega rich, H.R. 5377 is legislation for constituents like mine, working class Americans. The cap on SALT deductions is bad for my constituents, as the average Californian pays over $18,000 in state and local taxes, which is almost double over the SALT cap. Again, to help improve the quality of life of the fifth largest economy in the world. No other state can claim that. As a result, 1 million Californians will pay $12 billion more in taxes due to the SALT cap. In 2016, my constituents deducted almost $700 million in state and local taxes from their federal taxes. It is time to give them back, to give them a break and give them back the deductions that they once had. No one should have to pay taxes twice on the same dollar. I urge all my colleagues to vote for the rule and passage of H.R. 5377, Restoring Tax Fairness for States and Localities Act. Mr. Speaker, I urge a yes vote on the rule and a yes vote on the previous question, and I yield back the balance of my time. And I move the previous question on the resolution.
Gentlewoman yields back the balance of her time. The question is on ordering the previous question on the resolution. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it.
Speaker, on that, I would request the yeas and nays.
Gentleman from Oklahoma requests the yeas and nays. Those favoring the vote by the yeas and nays will rise. Sufficient number have risen. The yeas and nays are ordered. Members will record their votes by electronic device. Pursuant to Clause 9 of Rule 20, the chair will reduce to 5 minutes the minimum time for any electronic vote on the question of adoption of the resolution. This is a 15-minute vote.
Okay, so 15-minute vote, they said, so I guess I'll put on some music, and I was looking to see if I could get like real specifics of what they're talking about. Obviously, they're talking about fairness of taxes and whatnot, and it seemed like the representatives from New York and California want to get this passed. I'm sure you guys can probably read what's on screen. Increase of top marginal individual income tax rate under temporary rules. Okay. So it looks like this House Resolution 5377 had changed the tax amounts, and so now they're wanting to, or maybe this was changing the previous tax amounts. Either way, that's what it's about. It's about state and local taxes, and they want the amounts changed. So, I mean, obviously we have seen a lot of things happening with the taxes in New York and California and all that good stuff going on. There are apparently a lot of homelessness issues going on in California due to housing costs and things, which seem to be tied into the whole tax thing as well. And didn't Trump just recently decide that he was going to make his place of residence be in Florida versus New York, because Florida has looser tax restrictions and laws on the wealthy? So, interesting stuff. So I'm going to put on some Christmas music while we wait for them to finish their vote thing. Thank you all for joining, everybody. I know it's been kind of a toss-up this morning so far. If I had had some press releases prepared to go through, then I would have gone through that. And I still might do that. But I gotta go get my mom life on. So I'm just going to put on some Christmas music for now while we wait for them to vote on this.
snow in a one-horse open sleigh. O'er the fields we go, laughing all the way. Bells on bobtail ring, making spirits bright. What fun it is to ride and sing a sleighing song tonight. Oh, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Hey, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. A day or two ago, I thought I'd take a ride, and soon Miss Fanny Bright was seated by my side. The horse was lean and lame, misfortune seemed his lot. He got into a drifted bank and then we got upset. Oh, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Hey, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Oh, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Hey, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Okie dokie. So I forgot that I didn't have this live. So they have already voted on this. Skip ahead a few minutes and watch them finish voting. More than a few minutes because you know how they are. Time remaining 0. They're still all just walking around. I want to make sure I have the right info for this. Okay, so I'll let that play for a second. And again, thank you all for joining and for putting up with my realness. Okay. Double checking all your stuff takes the longest. And then sometimes you think you've double checked everything and you haven't. And I'm going to be putting some other browsers up, so I'm sorry if you guys can see what I'm doing in the browser window thing. But I wanted to go over a couple things that I found on what they are discussing right now. Okay, so that's that, and then do I have I have that pulled up. I have that pulled up. Okay. Hurry up and call the vote. They've had 0 minutes remaining for how long? Maybe I should just skip ahead to the live thing. They might not have even called it yet. Yep, it's live and they're still... This is on ordering the previous question. Alright, so I'm going to talk about some of the other stuff I found out regarding this while we are waiting for them to get their act together. Okay, so I showed you all how you can, if you go to live.house.gov, the first thing that you will see is this. It'll look like this, but at the bottom of your screen you will see it says watch, floor, text, schedule, legislative actions. If you click on schedules, you will see a list of all of the House resolutions for the entire week of December 16th. So if you scroll down to where it says HR 5377, this is one of the things that they are talking about today. And on the right hand side you will see it says PDF and XML for the different texts and legislations that are tied to this. So if you click on the PDF for the report to accompany HRES 772, bless you, buddy. Bless you. Okay, go through your apple core away. Good job. I'm sorry. Mom life. Okay. He just had to come in here and sneeze at me. That's all he wanted to do. So if you click on the reports, you will see the summary of provisions of the resolution, explanation of waivers, and then it has how people have voted on this. So the first recorded vote was for to provide consideration for HR 1869, the Restoring Investment in Improvements Act, under a closed rule, make necessary changes to the rule, and it was defeated 3-7. And then there was a motion by Mr. Woodall to amend the rule to HR 5377 to make in order amendment number 9 offered by Representative Rice, which eliminates the SALT cap on the bottom 90% of taxpayers and would deny any SALT deduction for the top 10% of taxpayers, and would eliminate the individual tax rate increase. And it was defeated 4-7.
Oh. 227 and the nays 195. Previous question is ordered. The question is on adoption of the resolution. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. Gentleman from Oklahoma.
On that, I would request the yeas and nays.
Gentleman from Oklahoma requests the yeas and nays. Those favoring the vote by the yeas and nays will rise. A sufficient number have risen. The yeas and nays are ordered. Members will record their vote by electronic device. This is a 5-minute vote, members.
Okay, so now they are voting on the actual resolution. And they said just a 5-minute vote, so let me get back to what I was talking about. Where is the right browser window? Where did it go? This? No. I have too many things open. Okay, well, the SALT deductions, because we had just talked about that. So I had to look up what these SALT deductions were specifically. So I just Googled it quick, and there are a few different articles that you can read on it. According to itep.org, the TCJA capped the amount of state and local taxes, or SALT, that taxpayers could deduct from their federal returns at $10,000. The SALT cap is flawed. The overhaul tax code could have been an opportunity to reduce or eliminate special breaks favoring the wealthy in a comprehensive way. I'm getting tongue-tied. So apparently the SALT deductions, when you file your taxes, you could claim a deduction on a certain amount, and they had limited the amount that you could claim. And yes, I'm in a Christmas sweater again now. So apparently they limited the amount that you could claim, and so they are wanting to repeal that, and they are wanting to also, I guess, eliminate any possible SALT deductions for the wealthy. So that is what they're discussing. I knew I had something interesting to do with taxes. That's why I was like, I'm going to stream that one. And like I said, the other thing that they're doing is already streaming on YouTube. And I wish that the government would get a little bit more on the ball with making sure that everything is easy to find on a platform like YouTube and just, out there for anybody to see, because it can be very, very hard to find all these things. I know all the government websites to go to for the most part to find all of this, and it's still very, 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 very hard for me to find all of the details and the information. And like you've seen already, sometimes you go to the page for a certain resolution and it has a little link for you to click on. You click on it and the government website is like, I can't find that link. I don't know what you're trying to do. So, it's lots of fun. But okay, I guess we're going to go back over to the view of the hearing room, courtroom, Congress room, whatever you want to call it. And I'm not going to bother putting on any music because I think they said it's just a 5-minute vote, I think, right? Yeah, so they only have 2 minutes left, which is probably like 10 minutes in government speak, But we will just wait and see what happens.
On this vote, the yeas are 227, the nays are 196. The resolution is adopted, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
The House will be in order. For what purpose does the gentleman from Maryland seek recognition? The House will be in order. Please move your conversations off the floor. For what purpose does the gentleman from Maryland seek recognition?
Madam Speaker, Torres Small, I rise pursuant to the order of the House on December 16, 2019. I call up the bill H.R. 5430 and ask for its immediate consideration.
The clerk will report the title of the bill.
H.R. 5430, a bill to implement the agreement between the United States of America, the United Mexican States, and Canada attached as an annex to the protocol replacing the North American Free Trade Agreement.
Pursuant to the order of the House of December 16, 2019, the bill is considered as read and shall be debatable for 2 hours, equally divided and controlled by the majority leader and the minority leader on or their respective designees.
Okie dokie. So, oh my goodness, my kids are being loud. So, let me ask you guys something. Because I know anybody watching this is just gonna be, you know, a normal person like me. So, as far as I was concerned, if something is laid on the table, that means it's still up for discussion. But it seems that something is laid on the table means maybe not that. So, you know, it's very hard for individual citizens to figure out what's going on. And in my opinion, they kind of like it like that. You know, they like it to be a bit confusing because, of course, if everybody could figure out everything that was going on, would they really need to have the jobs that they have? If we were all aware of everything and able to vote on everything and decipher what the heck they're talking about, I don't think that they would need to, you know, be maybe paid as much as they are being paid. So I think it's, you know, definitely a strategy on their part to make it as confusing as they possibly can, especially with having, you know, this resolution number on this bill, which has a different number, and then, like, it's hard to find all of the things that go together. And sometimes the government websites are not as helpful as they should be. So thank you all for, you know, sticking with me through this, because it is a journey and a process figuring it out. But hey, that's how you know I'm real, right? I'm not, you know, I don't know what's going on half the time. I don't think any of us do. But it's still important, as frustrating as it is still very important to at least try, and at least try to keep your eyeballs open and to pay attention. So I guess since they voted on those two resolutions, I'm going to end the stream here. I have a couple other things that I'm trying to do for the channel today. I'm going to try to do a video on a couple press releases and then upload that. So make sure that you have hit the subscribe button and turn on the bell notifications, which is just the little bell thing that's next to the red subscribe button. If you click on that, then you should get notifications, hopefully, from YouTube when we put out new content and when we schedule our live streams. And if you would like to follow us on Twitter, you can do so and find us at Daily Green Snips is our handle thing. And our website, thedailygreens.org, is where you can find information that we go over. I will go on there and link the live.house.gov thing and the other reports and such that were going along with these two resolutions that they had voted on. And so I guess that's it. So make sure you keep an eye out for our future stuff and hit that like button if you can. And I appreciate it, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful day. And as always, let's go out with a Christmas song. And I haven't heard anybody telling me what their favorite Christmas songs are, or holiday songs in general, or whatever, if you don't celebrate Christmas, I need to stop the live stream. I need to stop talking in front of the camera. I'm too tongue-tied today. All right, well, thank you all, and I hope you have a wonderful day.